Alright, so today I'm filming on my new lens, which is a f1.8 20mm G lens for Sony. So I'm not really a prime guy, so let me know what you think about picture quality, because I'm more of a zoom. But today we're not talking about zooms or primes or anything lenses. We're talking about the Mini 3 Pro and everything that I have found since using it, including everything that the big reviewers didn't tell you about, because there was a few things. I was pretty surprised actually, but I guess that's what you do if you're trying to sell a product. You keep the hype up, you don't talk about everything. So we will be going through that, but first we're gonna go and watch a little cinematic film together, because that's what this drone is for, is to make these films and take pictures, and then we'll come back and discuss. So enjoy, and we'll speak soon.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times, cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times, cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that little film. Now, as much as I too love those moody, slow, dramatic, cinematic films, sometimes you gotta mix it up a bit, because, you know, why not have some fun whilst we're here? So let's talk all things Mini, but first I want to say that this video is sponsored by me. No one else. Now, I bought this drone. I have all the opinions coming from someone who bought this drone, but I knew I was going to buy this drone, so I didn't fall into the trap. So we will be getting all the information and details from a real owner. But I will say, if you enjoyed the film and you do want to help me out, because I'm that close to being taken seriously by YouTube and getting over 1,000 subscribers, that'd be a massive help. So if you do want to subscribe, I very much appreciate it, but liking the video is also as much of a help. So let's talk all things Mini 3. Now, I guess let's talk about propellers first. They're very flimsy, so maybe it might be a good idea just to wrap an elastic band around it. That's what I do, because otherwise you have the chance, or you're running the risk of snapping a prop. Now, not to, you know, get off on the wrong foot, we will be going through everything. I don't want to be leaving a sour taste in your mouth, so we will discuss the pros and cons all in one, just so you get a well-rounded opinion on this drone. But I had the Mavic Mini, like the first generation, and I think I hit about 5 trees with that drone. The last tree, I hit about 35k an hour. It wasn't good, but I snapped a propeller then. Now, prior to that, the amount of things I hit, never once did I snap a prop. But this drone, I let it off on the balcony and it went up and it hit the roof because I let it go too high off my hand. It scraped it for a couple of seconds and it came back down. But because of that, I'll let you show here. As you can see here, there is a tiny little slit that's come off on the prop. Now, that is the result of 2 seconds of hitting the ceiling. So based on that, I will say these props are extremely, extremely fragile. So don't go crashing this thing, because it's probably not going to fare as well as the Mini 1 or the Mini 2. So just keep that in mind. Next, let's talk battery life. Now, they do claim 34 minutes with no wind and all that fun stuff, though I have not been able to get more than 25 minutes real world use out of this battery. That's still more than enough, and you're not going to be upset with that amount of flight time, but you probably won't get 34. Now, I flew it today. We have no wind today, which has been wonderful, and I got about 7 kilometers and 15 minutes worth of flight down to 45%. So if there is quite literally zero wind, it will fly much better. And talking of wind resistance, it does say level 5, 35k an hour winds, which is what the Air 2S also has. But I did try this at 35k an hour winds, didn't like it. It was all over the place. It did fly against it, though I did lose about 20 kilometers an hour worth of flight speed. So just keep that in mind. It's not a strong wind drone. I mean, it's 249 grams, so you would expect that, but don't go pushing the boundaries because you probably won't get it back like I did when I flew out my Mini 1 into the ocean and it never came back. Still hurts, still hurts. Now, in terms of the battery, it will force a return to home at 17%. I found that out yesterday actually, and it is able to be controlled. Like, you can cancel it and continue flying, but just keep in mind that that is where sort of the cutoff limit lies, and around 10% it will start a forced land. You can sort of keep it up if you're not exactly home at that point, but it will start trying to land at 10%, and the battery life lasts longer when the sensors are off. But let's talk sensors. They work really well. I've actually used them both with bypass and with brake mode. I'm not someone who generally likes to use sensors because A, it kills the battery life, and B, it's sort of, you lose a bit of traction with flight on the drone. And especially with this one, I think because the sensors are directly front facing, when you have the sensors on, it won't fly as fast because I guess when it's pitching down like that, the sensors are facing down, so it can't see where it's going. So it will always try and keep a flat body when the sensors are on. So if you do want max speed in normal mode, you have to turn them off. So just a little thing. I never heard that when I was watching all the big reviews, but that is something that you have to keep in mind. Now, I did mention the props were extremely fragile. To start things off, it's probably not a good place to start, but I will say that on top of that, and because they are so thin, so fragile, this is the quietest drone I've ever flown and I've ever owned. It is astounding and kind of a little bit scary how quiet this thing is, because when it takes off and even when it's primed for takeoff, you can barely hear it. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And even when it's flying, like when you're flying back to home or return to home, you can't hear it. It's weird because the Air 2S sounds like a massive swarm of wasps coming at you, so you know exactly where it is. This one though, unless you can't see it, you can't hear it. So it's kind of cool, and I thought that was worth mentioning, that it is as true as the big reviews say. It is a very, very, very quiet drone. Now, in flight, when the sensors are off, like I mentioned before, this thing banks and pitches as hard as the Air 2S. So that does also help with the wind resistance, not obviously in strong winds, but in general, let's say 20 kilometer an hour winds, this will fly really well and it will handle it. It banks super, super hard. And when it's flying, when the sensors are off, it's all the way down here, so you are getting a really nice angle so that you can keep and maintain a good flight speed. It does get thrown around a bit in the stronger winds, but nowhere near as bad as the Mavic Mini and I'm guessing the Mini 2 and the Mini SE, because they're both the same body. So this does have a much better flight path, and on top of that, it is flying for a lot longer than both of these drones because of the fact that it's more aerodynamic with the way that the arms are pitched and the way that the props are. So this new camera, the 1/1/3 sensor that everyone is talking about, really is as good as they say. Not gonna lie, it is surprisingly sharp. It's got a significant amount of detail. Even in normal mode, it is fantastic. The picture is super duper sharp. I haven't used ND filters on it because I don't intend to buy them for this drone, but it is fantastic. So take everyone's word for that because it's true. The only time that this and the Air 2S sort of step apart is when you use the digital zoom. Anything past 1.2 times, the image starts falling apart. So compared to the Air 2S, it's 2 times digital zoom is perfectly capable. I would just zoom in post with this drone because it's not going to do anything for you in terms of picture quality. In terms of the camera, I have only used 48 megapixel mode once or twice, but the 12 megapixel camera is more than enough in my humble opinion, and it does produce some really beautiful images, some fantastic detail. 48 megapixels, pretty much the same, like it's only slightly better in terms of the overall picture quality. So unless you want a really big SD card, then I would just stick to the normal 12 because you're still getting a fantastic image out of that. And 4K 24 and 4K 30 are equally beautiful, and that's what I use most of the time is 4K 30, just so you can slow it down that tiny little bit but still looks natural. It is very, very nice. Now, I don't use 4K 60. I don't think I've ever really seriously used 4K 60 on a drone. I did film it specifically for this video, so you can see what I mean here. So it is nice. The great thing about 4K 60 on this drone compared to the Air 2S is that there is no crop. It is still the same full resolution that you're getting on this sensor, 4K 60, 4K 30, it's all the same. That's really nice for anyone who is interested in using that frame rate for this drone. Personally, I can't advocate for it because I'm not someone who uses it all the time, and I'm not going to try and sell an idea that I don't really know anything about. Because we're going to try and keep it honest here. We've got to talk about everything, keep it honest. Now, the cool thing and the great thing that I have made a little bit of a mention before and also put it into the film is that when you put it into DCine-like, you do get 10-bit video, which means you have a lot more room for grading. Now, is it as good as the Air 2S? No, it's not. I have to be honest with you, it's not. You will get banding if you push it too hard, but if you do want to do relatively a decent amount of adjustment, you can get that with this drone. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't throw their bigger one under the bus, because that would make it completely invalid. But we'll talk about what this drone is and who it's for at the very end of this video. But I will say DCine-like in 10-bit is really fantastic. And because it's a smaller file, you're not going to be overloading your computer when you're doing the grading. Now, next, let's talk controller. Now, this is probably the biggest surprise when I got this drone, because every big review, they talked about this, oh, it's amazing, it's incredible. They did mention about this whole 700 nits, it's only a 700 nit screen. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. Australia is a very sunny place, as I'm sure a lot of you have heard. You don't really get too many days where it's dark and cloudy, and every single time I've been able to see this, no problems. It's got a very clear, very vivid, all the details are there. I'm never like, oh my God, I can't see it, it's too dark. It's fine, it's fine. I think I've made that point, it's fine. The thing that they didn't say with the big reviews, and this is the biggest issue for me, is that it's very slow to start up and turn on. No one mentioned that, and I was a bit annoyed, a little bit surprised, because certain manufacturers like Apple are known to slow their products down as you update them into the future. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen with this controller, because that'd be a little bit annoying. So just keep in mind, turn this on before you turn the drone on. And the great thing about the controller is that it's not constantly connected to 4G. And you know what that means? It's not always trying to do an update on you every single time, which is great. So you can just turn it on, fly it, and then check for updates whenever you want. And that's a bonus. I really, really like that. Now, another thing they mentioned about this is that the battery life isn't as good as the RC Pro. Now, I've never used the RC Pro, but I will say the battery life on this is fine. I think I've only charged it twice in the 2 or 3 weeks that I've had this drone, and you will get about 9 charges with your little drone before you need to charge up the controller, which is perfectly respectable in my own opinion. If you have had a similar experience or a different experience, do let me know down below, because I would be keen to hear your thoughts, because maybe it's just me in the way that I'm using it. I'm not sure because I never actually connect this to Wi-Fi. Now, the touchscreen on this is also very responsive, so that is fantastic. It would be nice if it came with a screen protector as standard because it's kind of a little bit susceptible to scratches and fingerprints and all that stuff. So if you do buy this combo, then make sure to get a screen protector as one of your first purchases. Mine, it's still coming in the mail, so hopefully that arrives soon. Now, the biggest surprise to me, let's say, with this controller, and I don't know how many people are going to get upset with me when I say this, is that the other controller, the normal N1 controller, whatever the code name is more responsive, and you do get a much better feedback for the drone with that controller. It's a little bit sluggish. I'm not sure if that's something that can be fixed in a software update that hopefully doesn't slow it down, but the other controller, in my own opinion, so I'm sorry, is a little bit better. It's a little bit better. But that does also mean you have to connect a phone, which can be a little bit cumbersome. So, you know, there is pros and cons to both. And lastly, with this controller is these little thumbsticks are very easy to lose. I've almost lost them a couple of times, and you do only get two. You don't get any extras if you don't get the Fly More kit. So you just have to be super careful when taking it off and putting it on. Like, you just have to really go slow with it, because unlike the other controller where it's a big sort of thing that gets stuck in, this one here has got a tiny little pin-like feel, but that's where the screw is, and that's where you screw it in. If I can see what I'm doing, that's where you screw it in there, just like that. So just keep that in mind. They're very easy to lose, very easy to lose. And if you do lose it, then you've got just a little pin poking up, and it's quite uncomfortable to control the joysticks. Now, who is this for? Who is this for? That is a good question. Now, I always planned to get this, I will say, so I'm not going to try and, you know, sell you an idea. When I lost my Mini 1 to the ocean, I said if the new one that comes out, the Mini 3, had sensors on it and had a better camera, which coincidentally it does, then I'll get it as my B camera, because as much as I love the Air 2S, it's a fantastic drone, charging it is a complete faff because you have to have 240 volt, and that's the one thing I've always missed with this, is that you can plug it into literally anything and charge it. But I will say, actually real quick, because I just remembered, is that when you are charging this, they do say on the website 64-minute charge time if you've got the fast charger. If you don't, it's about double that. So just keep that in mind, because it's a bit annoying, so maybe I might have to get a fast charger for it. But yeah, anyway, that's the great thing. You can just charge it up straight away. Whereas the Air 2S, you always have to find 240 volts. So this is always going to be the B drone. It's not my A drone, if that kind of makes sense. But who is this for? All right. So, if you are someone, who's never had a drone before, and you want to buy one that is going to be something you can both learn with and grow with and evolve with and get better, and not feel like you want to upgrade for a long time, I would recommend this over the Mini 2, because of the fact that it has got the extra features like the DJI Mini, so you can learn to grade as you get better with flying the drone. Also, the sensors are fantastic because you're not going to run into things, because trust me, it's very easy if you're trying to learn how to fly cinematic in tight situations. So if you've never owned one of these, then yeah, I'd say get this over any of the other ones, because this will last. And if you're in a regulation strict country like the United States or Canada, where you do have specific rules and regulations around drones, this is probably going to last you a lot longer than, say, the Air 2S or the other Minis, because of the fact that you don't have to register this drone. If you have the Mini 2 and you're really happy with it, then, I mean, I guess you'll have to make your mind up on that, but I would think that you probably don't need to upgrade, because the Mini 2 is still a fantastic drone. Now, I never bought the Mini 2, so I can't vouch for it, but I know plenty of people who do have it and they love it. So if it's doing everything you need it to, then you probably don't need to. And if you have the SE or the Mavic Mini like I did and you're thinking of upgrading, but because regulations in the US or Europe or anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere are too strict, getting this is a significant upgrade to the Mini SE or the Mavic Mini. You will seriously notice it. It is better in the air, it has a better camera, it has a better flight time, it has sensors on it, it has significantly more on it, and you get this cool little controller than the SE or the Mavic Mini. Now, if you like both of those drones that you got and you probably only fly it once or twice a month, then probably don't buy it. Just keep what you've got. But if you do want to evolve and grow and build it up, get better, that is the drone that I would recommend. It's really great, especially for the size. It fits in your pocket, it goes anywhere, has a great flight time. It's where it's at. It's where technology is going, I would say, into developing these smaller products. And we have come to the end of the video. I really hope that you have enjoyed this and you've got something out of it. If you'd like to personally help me out to say thank you, I'm that close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm that close to YouTube taking me seriously. So if you are able to help me out, I would very much appreciate it. Just get me up and over that line. If you haven't liked this video, then that too is a great help. And I think we've covered it all. If you have any questions, then do ask them down below and I will get back to you, I promise. And then we can discuss and, evolve the conversation down there. But until that chat that we have a fantastic day and let me know what you think, because I'm not trying to sell something here. I'm trying to give you an overall honest view of this drone. Anyway, speak later. Have a lovely day. Ciao.